The room was quiet except for the soft hum of a computer fan. Kim Dae-young sat at his desk, his glasses reflecting the glow of two monitors filled with lines of code. Outside his dorm window, the lights of Seoul began to sparkle in the early evening. From the campus below, he could hear laughter and music. It was the start of the university's spring festival weekend. Everyone seemed to have plans. Dae-young did not. He leaned back in his chair, feeling a familiar, dull ache in his chest. It wasn't a sharp pain. It was the feeling of being on the outside of a window, looking in at a warm room. His phone buzzed. It was a picture from a classmate in the group chat. It showed a crowded street festival, couples sharing cotton candy, friends with their arms around each other. He put the phone face down. A small video call window was open on his secondary monitor. His friend, Park Ji-woo, was visible, her own desk a mirror of his own, covered in engineering textbooks. She was half paying attention, sketching a diagram. "The coding club is meeting at the festival," Dae-young said, his voice flat. "They said I should come." Ji-woo didn't look up from her sketch. "So go. Eat some tteokbokki. Get some air. Your code will still be here when you get back." "They'll all be in pairs," Dae-young mumbled. "Everyone is. Even Choi from my algorithms class. He has a date. And? You can go and not be on a date. It's allowed." Ji-woo finally glanced at the camera, offering a kind but tired smile. "Just go for an hour." But the feeling didn't go away. It was a silly feeling, he knew. A childish want. He was fine being alone most of the time. He liked the quiet. But sometimes, on nights like this, the quiet felt too big. He wasn't looking for anything grand. Not true love. Not a soulmate. Just for a little while, he didn't want to be the guy alone in the crowd. He wanted to be a part of the easy laughter, to have someone to share the silly, small moments with. He stared at his own reflection in the dark monitor. The thought formed, simple and pathetic, and slipped out of his mouth in a sigh, directed at no one. "I just want a girlfriend for this weekend. Is that too much to ask?" Ji-woo's face snapped up on the video call. "What was that?" Dae-young's cheeks flushed red. "Nothing. I didn't say anything." "You absolutely did. You said you want a girlfriend for the weekend." Ji-woo put her pen down, her expression a mix of pity and amusement. "Dae-young, you don't just order one like pizza. What's really wrong?" "It's nothing," he insisted, rubbing his forehead. "Just festival loneliness. Ignore me." Ji-woo was about to reply, to give him her usual practical advice, when something strange happened on Dae-young's screen. The coding program he had been working on flickered. Then it minimized itself. A new window opened, one he didn't recognize. It was pure black at first. Then, elegant, shimmering silver text began to scroll from the top, like water flowing upwards. The font was unlike any system font he had. Sentiment scan complete. Linguistic profile. Korean/English hybrid. Emotional core. Loneliness/social desire. Source, vocalization proximate to input device. Dae-young stared, frozen. "Ji-woo, are you seeing this?" "Seeing what?" "Your guilty face. On my screen." Query interpreted. Weekend girlfriend, experiential parameter. Cultural context assimilated. Acknowledged. What is that? A virus? Dae-young's hands flew to the keyboard, but no keys responded. The computer was locked. Response from the Luxarian vessel Starlight Grace. Initiators, Yul and Mira of House Felis, heirs presumptive to the Felician Concordance. Ji-woo's voice came through the speaker, confused. "Dae-young, you're mumbling. What's going on?" He couldn't answer. More text appeared. "The wish for authentic, ephemeral social bonding is noted. Your planetary weekend timeframe is accepted. A reciprocal cultural data exchange is proposed. 48 hours of observed human romantic social custom for preliminary integration into the Galactic Social Index." "Galactic what?" Dae-young whispered. The final line of text appeared, pulsing softly. "Terms are set. The experience will commence. Arrival in 90 seconds. Please stand clear of the center of the room." "Dae-young, you're scaring me." Ji-woo's voice was sharp now. What a rival! What are you talking about? Before he could even try to form an answer, the air in the center of his small dorm room began to shimmer. It was like looking through heat rising off asphalt. A low hum vibrated in his teeth. The light from his desk lamp bent and twisted. Then, with a sound like a soft intake of breath, two figures appeared. They were young women, appearing maybe his own age. They were stunningly beautiful, but in a way that felt wrong. Their features were too perfect, their skin too smooth. They had long hair, one a shade of smoky gray, the other pure white. They wore simple, sleek dresses that seemed to be made of a material that held light. And their eyes, they were large and bright. One pair a luminous silver, the other a piercing gold. They looked around the room with a focused, curious intensity, like scientists examining a new specimen. The one with gray hair and silver eyes smiled. It was a friendly smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes, as if she was following an instruction on how to do it. "You are the source of the wish," she said, her Korean flawless but oddly formal. "I am Yul." The white-haired one with gold eyes gave a slight, precise nod. "I am Mira. We are here for the weekend girlfriend experiment. Your environment is smaller than anticipated, but acceptable." Dae-jung could only stare, his mouth hanging open. He heard a distant, tinny sound. It was Ji-woo, yelling from the forgotten laptop speaker. "Hello, Dae-jung. Who is in your room? Answer me." The one named Yul tilted her head, her ear twitching slightly towards the sound. "A remote observer? This is favorable. More data." Mira looked directly at Dae-jung. "We suggest you inform your friend that you are not in danger. The experience has begun. Our guardian, Kale, will ensure protocol is followed." She gestured vaguely toward the balcony. Slowly, Dae-jung turned his head. Standing outside on his small, fourth-floor balcony, silhouetted against the city lights, was a tall, powerfully built figure. It was not human. It had a sleek, feline shape, standing on two legs, with pointed ears that swiveled towards the room. Its eyes glowed a faint, warning green. Dae-jung's legs gave out. He sat down heavily on his bed, the world spinning. This was not a dream. This was not a joke. His stupid, lonely wish, spoken to an empty room, had been heard, and someone or something from the stars had decided to answer it. The silence in the dorm room was thick and heavy. The only sounds were the faint festival music from outside and the frantic voice of Park Ji-woo shouting from the laptop speaker. "Dae-jung, talk to me. What's happening?" The two young women, Yul and Mira, stood calmly in the center of the room. They continued to look around, their strange eyes taking in every detail. The rumpled bed, the stack of coding books, the half-empty cup of instant noodles on the desk. Their curiosity seemed clinical, like visitors in a museum. Dae-jung sat frozen on the edge of his bed, his mind a blank white noise. He stared at the figure on the balcony. The creature, Kale, was a shadow against the night sky, but the city lights caught the outline of sleek fur and the sharp angle of a pointed ear. The green glow of its eyes was fixed on him. Mira took a step forward, her movements silent and precise. "Your fear is illogical. The parameters are set. No harm will come to you. We are here for cultural observation." "Cultural observation?" Dae-jung managed to whisper. "Your wish for a temporary romantic partner is a social custom," Yul explained, her head tilting to the other side. "We wish to experience it directly. In return, our findings will help integrate your species into broader galactic social databases. It is a fair exchange." "This isn't happening," Dae-jung said, more to himself than to them. He closed his eyes tightly, hoping when he opened them, they would be gone. He opened them. They were still there. Yul was now gently poking his desk lamp, fascinated as she turned it on and off. Ji-woo's voice changed from panic to fierce command.
Kim Dae-jung.
"I am calling campus security right now. I can hear breathing that isn't yours." "No, wait," Dae-jung finally shouted, lurching towards the laptop. He fumbled with it, turning the camera to face the room. "Ji-woo, look. Just look." He pointed the webcam at Yul and Mira. On the screen, he saw Jiwoo's face go from angry to utterly confused. She leaned closer to her own camera. Who are they? Jiwoo asked slowly. Did you hire actors? Is this some kind of coding marathon prank? Yul noticed the camera. She stepped closer, her silver eyes filling the screen on Jiwoo's end. Greetings, remote observer. I am Yul of House Felis. Are you a relevant part of the subject's social network?
Ivo Blinket.
Subject? House of what? Dae-young, what is this? It's not a prank, Dae-young said, his voice shaking. They just appeared. They say they're aliens. They heard me wish for a girlfriend. For the weekend.
Ivo stared.
For a long moment, she said nothing. Then her famous practicality kicked in. Okay, let's assume I believe you for 1 second. Prove it. If you're aliens, prove it. Yul and Mira looked at each other. Mira gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. We are Felisian, Yul said. Our baseline form is adjusted for your atmosphere and social comfort, but the visual signature can be modified. Their bodies seemed to blur for a second, like a glitch in a video. Then, where two beautiful young women stood, there were now two tall, bipedal cats. They had elegant, slender forms covered in soft-looking fur. Yul in smoky gray, Mira in snowy white. They had long tails that swished gently. Their faces were feline, with expressive whiskers and those same large, intelligent eyes, one silver, one gold. They wore simple, silvery bands around their necks and wrists. Dae-young took a stumbling step back, hitting his desk. On the screen, Jiwoo's hand flew to her mouth. Oh, she breathed. Oh my God. The feline form lasted only 5 seconds before they shimmered back into their human-like appearance. This form uses less energy to maintain here, Mira stated, as if commenting on the weather. Is this sufficient proof? Jiwoo was silent, her mind racing. She looked from the girls to Dae-young's pale, shocked face, to the ominous shadow on the balcony. Her friend was in over his head. Way over his head. Okay, Jiwoo said again, her voice now calm and firm. I'm on my way. Do not do anything. Do not go anywhere. Just talk to them. I'll be there in 15 minutes. The call disconnected. Dae-young was alone with them again. The figure on the balcony, Kale, moved for the first time. A deep, rumbling voice, like stones grinding together, spoke through the glass door. The 48-hour period begins now, local time. It will end at this same hour on Sunday. My duty is to the Heiresses' safety. Interfere with them or cause them harm, and the experiment will end poorly for you. Dae-young just nodded, unable to speak. Yul clapped her hands together, the sound making him jump. Excellent. Then we should begin. What is the first activity for a weekend girlfriend? Our data suggests shared consumption of food or a visual entertainment experience. Dae-young looked at his watch. It was 7:23 p.m. on a Friday. He had wished for a girlfriend for the weekend, and now he had 2 alien cat heiresses, a terrifying guardian on his balcony, and his best friend speeding across campus. He had no plan, no code to debug this. He sank back onto his bed, the reality crushing down on him. This was real. For the next 48 hours, his life was not his own. It was an experiment. First, he said, his voice hollow, we wait for Jiwoo. The next 15 minutes were the longest of Dae-young's life. He sat stiffly on his bed. Yul and Mira explored his room with quiet intensity. Yul was fascinated by his clothes, feeling the texture of a cotton hoodie. Mira examined his books, flipping pages with delicate, precise fingers. Kale, the guardian, remained a silent statue on the balcony, a constant reminder that this was not a dream. A frantic knock came at the door. Dae-young jumped up and yanked it open. Park Jiwoo stood there, breathing hard from running. Her eyes darted past him into the room, taking in the 2 strange girls. She stepped inside and closed the door firmly behind her. Okay, she said, putting her hands on her hips. Start from the beginning. Again. Dae-young tried to explain in a jumble of words. His wish, the computer message, their arrival. Yul and Mira watched Ji-woo with keen interest, recognizing her as a new variable. When he finished, Ji-woo turned to the twins. So, you're really from space, and you're here to be his girlfriends for a weekend. As an experiment. A cultural exchange, Mira corrected politely. We observe and experience. Our findings will be valuable for galactic records. And what does Dae-young get out of this exchange? Ji-woo asked, ever protective. Yul blinked. He expressed a desire. We are fulfilling it. Is that not the core of the girlfriend function? To fulfill stated and unstated social desires. Ji-woo pinched the bridge of her nose. It's more complicated than that. It's about mutual feeling. Connection. Connection is a primary objective of study, Mira nodded, as if jotting down a mental note. We are prepared to simulate it. You can't simulate it, Ji-woo sighed. She looked at Dae-young's lost expression. Her friend needed help. Practical, immediate help. All right, look, if you're really doing this, you can't just stand in his dorm room. That's not a weekend. That's a weird meeting. What do you propose? Yul asked, her silver eyes bright with curiosity. Ji-woo thought fast. You have to go out. Do normal things. That's how you learn, right? By doing. The twins looked at each other. A silent communication seemed to pass between them. Acceptable, Mira said. A field study is superior to a controlled environment. Lead the activity, Kim Dae-young. All three of them looked at him. The pressure was immense. His mind, which could organize code, went completely blank on planning a normal outing. He said. Food? People get food. Nourishment consumption is a common social ritual. Mira agreed. Ji-woo nodded encouragement. Good. Take them to the street food market in Hongdae. It's crowded. It's loud. It's very human. I'll monitor from here. She had no intention of leaving, but she also knew three might be a crowd for this bizarre date. 20 minutes later, Dae-young found himself walking out of the dorm with Yul and Mira by his sides. They had declined to change clothes, saying their outfits were suitable for all environments. Kale was not visibly following, but Dae-young felt a prickling on the back of his neck. Sure, they were being watched. The Hongdae market was a wall of sound, light, and smell. It was packed with students and tourists. Music blared from different stalls. The air was thick with the scent of frying meat, sweet syrup, and spices. The twins stopped dead at the edge of the crowd. Their perfect posture went rigid. Their large eyes widened, taking in the chaotic scene. Sensory overload, Yul stated, her voice tight, multiple noise sources, conflicting aromas, unpredictable movement patterns. It is inefficient, Mira agreed, but her gold eyes were darting everywhere, trying to track everything at once. How do you navigate this without a plan? You just go, Dae-young said, feeling a strange responsibility. He pointed to a stall selling tteokbokki, the spicy rice cakes. Let's start there. He led them into the river of people. Immediately, the crowd jostled them. Dae-young moved on instinct. As a group of loud friends pushed past, he stepped slightly in front of Mira, his arm coming up to create a small space between her and the shove. It was a tiny, automatic gesture. Mira looked from the passing crowd to Dae-young's back, then to the space he had made for her. Her analytical expression softened for a fraction of a second. You blocked the impact, she said. Huh? Oh yeah. Sorry, it's just crowded, Dae-young mumbled. Embarrassed? No, Mira said. It was not in your initial parameters. It was an unprompted, suboptimal use of your energy to shield me. Why? Dae-young just shrugged. It's just what you do. They reached the tteokbokki stall. Yul leaned in, whiskers twitching in her human form as she inhaled the spicy steam. The chemical signature is complex. We will each require a portion for full analysis. Dae-young bought 3 cups. They found a slightly less crowded spot to stand. Yul took a careful bite. Her eyes flew wide open. A shiver went through her whole body. Temperature, high. Flavor profile, aggressive, savory, Sweet, pain-inducing. She took another, bigger bite. It is excellent. The pain is part of the experience. This was not in the data. Mira ate hers with more caution, but De-Jong saw her take a second, then a third bite. A tiny, almost invisible smile touched her lips. The consumption is communal. It encourages a shared state, she observed, looking at the people around them laughing and eating. For the next hour, De-Jong led them through the market. He bought them hadiak, the sweet pancake, and twigim, fried vegetables. With each new food, the twins' clinical analysis slowly gave way to something else. Yul got passionately focused on finding the perfect gunbam, roasted chestnut, comparing vendors. Mira became engrossed in watching a group of friends play a carnival game, analyzing their teamwork and celebrations. The rigid experiment feeling began to fade, replaced by something simpler. They were just 3 people in a crowd trying new things. De-Jong, for the first time all evening, stopped feeling terrified. He started feeling like a guide. He explained what things were, warned Yul that the makchong was intestine, which made her laugh. A real, surprise sound as they stood watching a street performer. De-Jong's phone buzzed. A message from Ji-woo. Still alive. He typed back, a small smile on his face. Yeah, they like spicy food. He put his phone away and looked at the twins. Yul was now trying to mimic the street performers juggling with 3 chestnuts, failing utterly. Mira was quietly offering corrections. They weren't studying humanity from a distance anymore. They were in it, and De-Jong realized, with a jolt, that his silly wish was coming true. He was not alone for the weekend. The method was impossible, but the feeling, the simple, shared experience of a Friday night, was suddenly wonderfully real. The festival was a different kind of chaos. Unlike the sprawling market, the university grounds were packed with students in a contained, celebratory frenzy. Colored lights were strung between trees. Music from different club booths created a joyful, messy sound. In the center of the main field, a large stage was set up for a band, and a crowd had already formed, a sea of people moving together. Yul and Mira stopped at the edge of the field, their earlier ease from the market replaced with fresh analysis. The sound is non-functional. It does not communicate data, only rhythm and emotion, Mira observed, her head tilted as she processed the noise. The movement of the crowd is synchronized but not uniform. There is no leader, Yul added, her silver eyes tracking the dancers. De-Jong shoved his hands in his pockets. It's just dancing. People do it for fun. Fun is a difficult variable to quantify, Mira said, but she looked intrigued. Her eyes followed a group of friends who were dancing badly but laughing loudly. Let's get closer, Yul declared, and before De-Jong could respond, she took his hand and pulled him into the edge of the crowd. Her grip was firm, her skin cool. Mira followed close behind. The energy of the crowd was infectious. The bass from the speakers vibrated in De-Jong's chest. People swayed and jumped around them. Yul released his hand and simply stood for a moment, letting the movement wash over her. She watched a girl nearby, who was dancing with her eyes closed, a happy smile on her face. You do not follow steps, Yul said, turning to De-Jong, almost shouting over the music. You make them up? Yeah, mostly. You just move how the music feels, he said, feeling self-conscious. How it feels. Yul closed her own eyes. Her body began to move, a slight, awkward sway. It was stiff like a machine trying to mimic a fluid motion. She opened her eyes, frustrated. I do not understand the input. De-Jong's nervousness melted away, replaced by a simple desire to help. He wasn't a good dancer, but that was the point here. No one was. Don't think about it, he said. He did a silly, simple 2-step shuffle, moving his shoulders in an exaggerated way. Like this. It doesn't matter if it looks right. Yul watched him, then tried to copy. Her movements were still precise, but a smile broke through her concentration. Mira watched them both, her analytical gaze softening. You are instructing her, Mira said. Not a question, but a confirmation. I guess. De-Jong shrugged, still shuffling. Yul mirrored him, her version of the silly step becoming looser. Then the song changed to something faster. The crowd cheered and the energy surged. Yul laughed. A real, bright sound that cut through the music. She stopped copying and just started to move, her arms swinging, her body finding the beat in her own strange, elegant way. It wasn't human dancing, but it was full of joy. Mira remained at the edge, observing. But Dae-Jung saw her foot tapping. He reached out a hand to her. Come on, for the experiment. Mira looked at his hand, then at the swirling crowd. Her logical mind warred with something else. Slowly, she placed her hand in his. He led her into a clearer spot and just nodded to the music, giving her an encouraging smile. Mira's dancing was even more reserved than Yul's initial attempt. Small, controlled movements, but she was doing it. Her gold eyes were not scanning for data now. They were fixed on Dae-Jung's face, reading his encouragement. After a few songs, they moved away from the crowd, breathless and warm. They found a quiet bench under a string of fairy lights, away from the worst of the noise. They bought cans of cold cider from a stall and sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Watching the celebration from a distance, it was Yul who broke the quiet. Your earlier statement at the nourishment market. It is just what you do. We have analyzed this. Our systems define actions by purpose and gain. That action had no clear gain for you. Dae-Jung took a sip of his drink, thinking, I don't know. It's just being nice? You don't let someone get pushed if you can help it. But we are not fragile. We are stronger than you, Mira stated. That's not the point, Dae-Jung said. He looked down at his hands. He wasn't used to explaining these things. He spoke slowly, choosing simple words. It's about care. Even a little bit. You see someone, and you think, I should look out for them. Even for a second. Even if they don't need it. The twins were silent, absorbing this. The concept seemed to hover in the air between them, more alien than their ships. Dae-Jung continued, feeling braver in the semi-darkness. Like this weekend, my wish, it wasn't about strategy. I wasn't planning for the future. I was just lonely in a moment. It was a small, stupid feeling. Humans have a lot of those. Small feelings are not logged as significant in our databases, Mira whispered. Maybe they should be, Dae-Jung said. He told them then, under the twinkling lights, not about grand human achievements, but about small human things. He talked about the stress of exams, and how his mother in Busan sent him care packages of homemade kimchi that made his whole floor smell. He talked about his quiet dream of making a helpful app, something simple that could make someone's day a little easier. He spoke without any plan, any hope of impressing them. He was just being honest. Yul and Mira listened without interruption. They did not take notes. They did not analyze his words for hidden meanings. They just listened. When he finished, the noise of the festival felt far away. Yul was looking at him with an expression he couldn't name. Wonder, maybe. Mira's usual analytical mask was gone, replaced by a deep, thoughtful quiet. Vulnerability, Mira finally said, the word delicate on her tongue. You shared weakness with us. This is considered a risk. It is, Dae-Jung agreed. But it's also how you make a real connection. You can't program it. You just have to feel it and hope the other person does too. For a long moment, none of them spoke. The unspoken understanding hung in the air. This was no longer just an experiment. The line had blurred. They were not just heiresses and a subject. They were Yul, Mira, and Dae-Jung, sitting on a bench, sharing a piece of the night. The weekend was halfway over, but something had just begun. High above the earth, in a silent orbit, the Luxarian vessel Starlight Grace held its position. Inside, the atmosphere was one of quiet luxury and absolute order. In a chamber with a wide view of the planet below, Kale stood before a shimmering communication panel. His feline features, now in their true form, were stern. He was making his report. The figure on the screen was obscured by a soft haze of light, but the authority in her voice was clear. It was the matriarch of House Felis. Your report, Guardian Kale. Status of the heiresses. They are physically secure, matriarch, Kale's deep voice rumbled. The human subject, Kim Dae-Jung, poses no physical threat. He is soft, confused, non aggressive. And the experiment? Kale paused. His duty was to report facts, not feelings. But the facts were leading to strange conclusions. The initial phase was as expected. Disorientation, cultural analysis. However, the immersion is producing atypical results. The human does not follow a courtship script. His actions are improvisational. He exhibits small, illogical kindnesses. He shares vulnerabilities without strategic purpose. The matriarch was silent for a moment. Explain illogical kindness. At a crowded nourishment market, he used his own body to block a crowd surge from Mira. No gain, no display of strength. A purely protective gesture with no audience to impress. Later, he attempted to teach Yul a non-functional dance for the purpose of fun. He shared personal data about familial bonds and fears. He asks for nothing in return. This is inefficient, the matriarch stated. It is, Kale agreed. Yet, the Heiresses' responses are deviating from predicted models. They are not just observing. They are participating. Yul displayed laughter during a food tasting. Mira accepted a hand for a coordinated movement ritual. Their focus is shifting from data collection to experience. A longer silence filled the channel. This is a potential contamination risk. Their expectations for future political pairings could be compromised. Understood, Kale said, bowing his head slightly. But there is more. The human's environment, the chaotic social gathering, the shared consumption, the emphasis on transient emotion. It represents a social technology our galaxy has largely discarded. It is unpredictable, messy, and it appears to be generating genuine cohesion. You are suggesting a weak, emotional species has something to teach the concordance? I am suggesting, Kale said carefully, that their method of forming bonds, while inefficient, is remarkably effective. The Heiresses are forming a connection with the subject that was not in the mission parameters. It was not negotiated. It simply occurred. Monitor it closely, Kale. The deadline is fixed. We will not extend this holiday. As you command. Back on Earth, De Jong was unaware of the conversation in orbit. He was walking with Yul and Mira away from the festival grounds, the noise fading behind them. The twins were quiet, lost in their own thoughts, processing the night. Meanwhile, in another part of the galaxy, a different kind of ripple was spreading on the vast, interconnected galactic social net. A feed meant only for high-tier Felician affiliates experienced a minor data buffer anomaly. A small packet of raw, unprocessed experiential data from the Heiresses feed was briefly exposed before firewalls slammed back into place. It was not a formal report. It was a fragment. The packet contained two files. One was a still image, a slightly blurry selca taken by Yul. It showed her and Mira, in their human forms, with De Jong squished between them. They were all in the crowded market. De Jong was holding up a hadiak, his face showing a nervous but real smile. Yul was grinning widely at the camera. Mira had a small, calm smile. In the background were countless anonymous humans, living their lives. The second file was a 10-second video clip. Yul's attempt at dancing, with De Jong's silly shuffling in the frame, and the blur of joyful humans around them. The audio was pure, unfiltered festival chaos. Music, laughter, shouting. This fragment leaked into the wider galactic network. It was copied, shared, and viewed millions of times across 100 systems. For young beings on civilized, orderly worlds, it was a spark. They saw no formal ceremony, no strategic alliance, no perfect choreography. They saw something raw and real. They saw three beings, from different worlds, sharing a messy, happy, unscripted moment. The comments that flooded in were not about political analysis. The expression on the Terran's face, is that awkward happiness? I have no database entry for it. They are moving without a pattern. Why does it look enjoyable? The background auditory chaos is illogical. Yet, I have replayed it 17 times. This is from a Felician heiress? This is not a state function. What is happening on that planet? The clip was a quiet sensation. It didn't threaten governments. but it threatened something deeper. The idea that the way things had always been done, the formal, calculated, efficient way, was the only way. It presented an alternative. Connection for the sheer, pointless joy of it. On the quiet walk back to the dorm, Dae-young's phone buzzed. It was Ji-woo. "You're trending?" Her message read. "What?" he typed back, confused. "Not here. Somewhere else. Don't ask. Just be careful. And be yourself." He put his phone away, more confused than ever. Yeol noticed his expression. "A problem?" she asked. "I don't know," Dae-young said honestly. He looked at the two of them, these impossible visitors who were now just walking beside him under the streetlights. The weight of galaxies and networks was far beyond him. All he knew was the here and now. "I think it's nothing," he said. And for him, in that moment, it was true. The only thing that felt real was the cool night air and the company he kept. Sunday evening arrived with a soft, orange-colored sunset. Dae-young led Yeol and Mira to the Han River Park. It was a quiet contrast to the festival. Families had picnics.
Couples rode bicycles.
The wide, open space and the slow-moving water brought a sense of calm. They found a spot on the grass and sat. The weekend, which had stretched out like a lifetime on Friday, now felt like a single, fast breath. The countdown was in their bones. For a while, no one spoke. They watched the light fade on the water. The fear and strangeness were gone, replaced by a deep, warm tiredness and a feeling of sadness Dae-young couldn't quite name. It was Mira who broke the silence. Her voice was quiet, not with analysis, but with something softer. "The 48 hours conclude in 27 minutes, she said. She wasn't looking at him. She was watching a pair of birds skim the water's surface. "Yeah," Dae-young said. The word felt heavy. Yeol turned to him. Her usual bright curiosity was still there, but it was layered with a new emotion. "The experiment was a success. We collected more data than predicted. But the data is confusing." "Confusing how?" "It does not fit into neat categories," Mira explained. "The variable, fun, the gesture of blocking, the sharing of personal fears. These are not efficient social strategies. But they created a bond faster and stronger than any formal introduction protocol in our records." Yeol nodded, her silver eyes serious. "We have a proposition for you, Kim Dae-young." Dae-young's heart beat a little faster.
A proposition.
"The concordance is powerful," Mira said. "We have resources you cannot imagine. We could grant you things. Wealth, advanced technology that would make you a pioneer on your world. You would never want for anything." Yeol leaned forward. "Or," she said, her voice dropping to a hopeful whisper, "you could come with us. When we leave, you would see stars we know, worlds of crystal and forests of light. Your life here is small. We could make it vast." The offer hung in the air. It was everything a dream was made of. It was the answer to every boring day, every lonely night, every silent wish for something more. Dae-young imagined it for a moment. The awe, the wonder, leaving all his ordinary problems behind. He looked at their faces, so full of earnest expectation. They were giving him a choice they thought was generous. They were offering to turn their experiment into a permanent transaction. And that was the problem. He thought about the weekend. He remembered Yeol's laugh when she tasted spicy food. He remembered Myra's focused calm as she watched the dancing crowd. He remembered the feeling of just being a guide, of sharing his small, simple world. If he took their offer, all those real moments would become a price. They would become the reason he got paid. The weekend would stop being a memory and start being a business deal. He looked down at the grass, plucking a single blade. He thought of his mother's kimchi packages. He thought of Ji-woo's loyal, skeptical friendship. He thought of his messy dorm room and his unfinished code. It was a small life, but it was his. He took a slow breath and looked up at them. "Thank you," he said, his voice clear and firm. "That is an amazing offer, but I can't accept it." The twins stared. This was not a response in their data. "Why?" Yeol asked, genuinely confused. "It is logically superior. Your quality of life would increase by every measurable standard." That's just it, Dae-Jung said, a small, sad smile on his face. If I took wealth from you or if I left with you, then this weekend wasn't real. It becomes a transaction. It becomes me saying, I gave you a good experience, now you pay me. But that wasn't what it was. He struggled to find the simple words. This weekend was just nice. We ate food. We listened to music. We talked. You didn't pay me for that. I didn't pay you. We just shared it. If I take a reward now, it turns all those real feelings into a job. And that would ruin it. He saw the understanding begin to dawn in Myra's gold eyes. It was a concept so alien it was almost frightening. You value the experience for itself? She whispered. With no continuation? No gain? Yes, Dae-Jung said. The gain was the time. The gain was the company. That's all. That's the whole thing. If you try to put a price on a feeling, you kill the feeling. Yul looked stunned. Her gaze moved from Dae-Jung to the wide, darkening sky. The first stars were coming out. The stars she called home. She had offered him the galaxy, and he had chosen a quiet patch of grass by a river because it was real. It was the most human thing she had ever witnessed. Not a grand act of heroism. A quiet act of integrity. He was choosing the memory over the reward. In that moment, they finally understood the quiet, terrifying strength of humanity. It wasn't in their technology or their plans. It was in their stubborn, illogical, beautiful insistence that some moments are too precious to sell. That a connection, however short, could be valuable just because it happened. The hum of energy began to build around them, soft at first. The air started to shimmer. Their time was up. Kale materialized a few feet away, his form solidifying from shadow. He gave a single, solemn nod. The period is concluded. Yul and Mira stood up. Dae-Jung stood with them. No one knew what to do. A handshake was wrong. A bow was not enough. Yul stepped forward first. She did not offer a formal farewell. Instead, she did what she had seen humans do. She hugged him. It was brief and a little stiff, but it was real. Thank you for the spicy food, she said into his shoulder. Mira was next. Her hug was shorter, but she held his hand for a second after. Thank you for the dance lesson, she said. Her eyes held his, and for the first time he saw no analysis there. Only gratitude, and a trace of the same sadness he felt. The shimmer around them grew brighter. The forms of Yul and Mira began to fade, becoming outlines of light. Dae-Jung raised a hand in a simple, final wave. Goodbye, he said. And then, with a sound like a sigh, they were gone. The space where they had stood was empty. Only the faint scent of something like ozone and flowers remained. Dae-Jung was alone on the riverbank. The galaxy had visited him, shared his weekend, and left. He sat back down on the grass, pulled his knees to his chest, and watched the stars, feeling the vast, echoing quiet of a wish that had been granted, and had now ended. The days after their departure were very quiet. Dae-Jung went back to his routine. He went to his classes. He worked on his code. He ate meals in the cafeteria. Everything was exactly as it had been before. And yet nothing felt the same. His room felt too large. The silence was different. It was no longer just the absence of sound. It was the absence of their curious questions, of Yul's bright laughter, of Myra's calm observations. It was the absence of possibility. Park Ji-woo checked on him often. She brought him coffee and didn't ask too many questions. She just sat with him. Once, she said, "You know, for a guy who had 2 alien princesses as his dates, you look miserable." Dae-Jung managed a weak smile. It wasn't a date. It was an experiment. Right? Ji-woo said, not believing him for a second. She could see it in his eyes. It had been real. A week passed. The strange, heightened feeling began to settle into a dull, normal ache. He told himself it was like a vivid dream, fading with the morning light. He tried to focus on the real world, his upcoming exams, a bug in his latest project. It was a Thursday evening. Dae-Jung was back at his desk, the glow of the monitor his only light. He was debugging a stubborn piece of code, his brow furrowed in concentration. His ordinary smartphone was lying face down next to his keyboard, silent. Then, it buzzed. Not a call. Not a message from Jiwoo or his mom. It was a soft, unfamiliar chirp, like the sound of a distant bird. He picked it up. The screen was on, but it showed no notification from his usual apps. Instead, in the center of the screen was a simple, plain text box against a dark background. It looked like the Notepad app, but it wasn't one he had installed. In the box, words appeared. They typed themselves out, one letter at a time, in simple, unadorned text. Status report, cultural data analysis, ongoing, subject. The perfect weekend, Terran model, initial findings. Inconclusive. Data shows high emotional resonance but lacks repeat verification. Hypothesis. The experiential model requires further testing for validation. Proposed action. Replication of scenario. Proposed timeline. Next available Terran holiday period. Query. Is the resource Kim Dae-young available for cooperative study? Below the text, two simple emojis appeared. Not alien symbols. Ordinary human emojis from his own phone's library.
Akat face.
And a rocket. Dae-young's breath caught in his throat. His heart, which had been calm, began to hammer against his ribs. He stared at the message, reading it over 3 times. It wasn't a grand return. There was no shimmer of light, no figures appearing in his room. It was a text, a simple, impossible text. It was a question. He looked around his quiet, small dorm room. He looked at the window, at the Seoul skyline twinkling back at him. The sky was no longer a blank ceiling. It was a door, left slightly ajar. A slow smile spread across his face, starting in his eyes and finally reaching his mouth. It wasn't the sad smile from the riverbank. It was a smile of pure, undiluted wonder. He picked up the phone. His thumbs hovered over the screen. He didn't know what protocol to follow. He didn't know the right words, so he used simple ones. He typed his reply directly into the strange text box. This resource is available. Next holiday is Chuseok. It's in the fall. Lots of food involved. He hit enter. The message vanished from the box. For a full minute, nothing happened. He wondered if he had broken it, if his clumsy human reply had failed. Then, new text appeared, typing itself out slowly. Parameters acknowledged. Chuseok. Food-based cultural event. Preparations will be made. A pause. We look forward to further cooperation. Yul and Mira. The text box faded. His phone screen returned to normal, showing his usual background photo of a mountain. It was as if nothing had happened. Dae-young put the phone down. He leaned back in his chair and let out a long, shaky breath. He looked at his lines of code on the monitor, but he couldn't focus on them anymore. His mind was somewhere else, far above, thinking about crystal forests and lights, and about how to explain the tradition of making songpie and rice cakes. He got up and walked to the window. He pressed his hand against the cool glass. The city stretched out below, alive and humming with its own human business. People were going home from work, meeting friends, living their ordinary, beautiful lives. His life was still here. His exams, his dream, his family, his friend Jiwoo. That hadn't changed. But now, his life had a thread leading out into the impossible dark. It was not an escape. It was an extension. The galaxy had not swallowed him whole. It had simply sent him a friend request. And he had accepted. He wasn't just Kim Dae-young, the quiet student anymore. He was also Kim Dae-young, the human who had friends among the stars, who had a standing invitation for the next holiday. He turned away from the window, a new energy in his steps. He had work to do, code to finish, a life to live, and he realized with a thrill that warmed him from the inside out, he had a lot to learn before Chuseok. He needed to be a better guide. The story was not over. It was just waiting for the next chapter to begin.